Good afternoon, everybody. It is the proper time and the proper place for the Fremont County Planning Commission meeting today. I'd like to ask you all to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. I will now call the roll. I am here. Larry Brown is here. Gardner Fay is here. Let me know if you're not.
Yes, sir. Okay.
John Carper is here. Rudolph Morgan is here. Travis Payne is not, and Del McCulloch is here. I hope that you've all had a chance to look at the agenda. Does anybody have any comments or corrections? And I'm open to a motion.
Move for approval.
Thank you. Have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. And you all should have a copy of the May 7th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting minutes. And are there any corrections or? Then I'm open to a motion on that also.
I move we approve the May 7th Planning Commission meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Rudy?
Oh, yeah, aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We don't have any unfinished business. We do have new business before us, MS 24-003 Fossil Trail Minor Subdivision. Applicant Steve and Char Linder, represented by George Hall. George, you want to talk to us a little bit about the Fossil Trail Minor Subdivision?
I think you want me to turn that on.
We do.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. As you say, we're here for a two-lot minor subdivision on Fossil Trail. Steve and Char Linder are present and here also. So if you have any questions for them, feel free. To me, this is a pretty straightforward minor subdivision, no big issues or anything. I would like to point out to you in 1995, I believe it was, there was a boundary line adjustment that was done, and the main topic that we're going to be talking about and discussing about it is on that minor boundary line adjustment back in 95. Whether the regulations changed or whether it was something that was missed or whatever, they actually left a 15-foot flag lot strip, which to me was very obvious that they left that strip for access to this property with the way the hay fields are constructed and with the way that the irrigation ditch is to be able to get to the boxes for the irrigation. And it's the most logical way to get in and out of the property. So this is where our discussion is, because currently the flag lot regulation is a 25-foot regulation, where my question is was that the original width of flag lots back in 95 when the lot line adjustment was done and that little stem was created? Basically, we are putting in for a waiver to the width of that flag lot because we believe that was created back at that point in time to allow for access off of this property. I would like to take one of the contingencies and get rid of them right now. It's the tax certificate for the taxes. So that should eliminate that part of the issue also. So basically, what we're wanting to discuss more than anything is the flag lot width and getting the waiver for that width. I believe it was very obvious that back in '95, that's what they intended that for being, and whether the regulation changed and the flag lots got widened since that, I can't tell you that answer, guys.
Could you show us on that map just what you're talking about? On that?
Well, I can, but I don't have anything to point to, or,
I don't have a pointer either. Yeah, so it's at the upper right of that drawing. It's kind of in the center.
right there at the end of L11 is where the end of South Street is. And then there's that 15-foot strip along L12 right there, just laying north of L12.
Top there to where it says 7.
Yeah,
That's,
that is that flag lot that I'm talking about.
Roughly over 200 feet.
And it runs alongside South Street?
Well, South Street,
Or
either,
that's not South Street?
it's very interesting. It's been discussed of whether South Street was ever truly a county road or not a county road all the way through. It is very obvious that past that first point right there on to the west, it has either been vacated or never was a county street. I can't tell you that. Mr. Linder might be able to actually follow up with that a little bit more. He might remember more about that with growing up around the property, and basically his dad's the one that actually did that boundary line adjustment back in '95. Do you have anything else to add, Steve?
Well, the only thing I can tell you, all this property belonged to my father, and the hearsay is that back in the day, Herb's Venker's flower farm was placed basically across the street from where my house is currently located, and half of that road between my dad and Herb Venker was negotiated so that Herb could put the flower farm in, so that he'd have access to get flowers in and out of there. But that's all I can tell you, really. But so I think my dad basically gave him half of that road to do that, and that's all I can tell you. And that's kind of hearsay, but that's what I've heard down through the years, and Herb's Flower Farm was there. And they did business there for years, so that's all I can tell you.
Thank you for that. If I may, I suggest that we hear the staff report, and then we can pepper everybody with questions. So Dan.
Hey gentlemen, how you doing today?
Good.
Let me get the microphone on before I get yelled at. So yes, today minor sub 24003 Fossil Trail. The applicant is Stephen and Charlene Linder, and we have the consultant George Hall. This is for a 2-lot subdivision. Lot number 1, 1.25 acres, and lot number 2, 26.63 acres. The subject property is located in the Agricultural Suburban Zone District at 1402 South Street in Canyon City. Lot number 1 for improvements has a dwelling and full utilities. Lot number 2 is vacant with the Fruitland Ditch Company having irrigation water going through. As proposed, the size of the lots work. Let's see here. The lot number 1 has deeded access to South Street, and lot number 2 has access out onto 15th Street. Like George was saying, where we hit an issue was in the design standards and the subdivision regulations. Our regs call out for that 25-foot wide access, and this access is proposed at 15 foot for lot number 1. Let's see here, the applicant has requested a drainage waiver and a waiver on the width of the flag lot for lot number 1. The county engineer made it up to the site, took a peek at it, and determined that a deferment of any drainage plans could be, he would support that. And Department of Transportation made the recommendation that a driveway access permit be applied for on lot 2 if there's ever development. So this kind of tricky one. My regs don't give me the ability to bypass what the standards are. So my department, I recommend denial due to the per appendix 1 design standards section B number 12 of flag lots, where it says the minimum width of a flag lot stem shall be 25 feet. George just turned in the tax certificate, so that reason is gone. However, if this commission decides to recommend, wait a minute, the Planning and Zoning Department recommends reconfiguring of lot number 1 to meet design standards. However, if this commission chooses to recommend approval, we would just request that a condition would be for a drainage plan at the time of development for lot number 1 and 2.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so this one's a little different.
It is. It is. Commissioners, do you have some questions?
Do you have any way to check to see if that was a legal lot when, in 1995? Whereby this might be grandfathered
I mean,
in?
I could go through all the regulation changes to see if that was ever a proposed change. To my knowledge, it wasn't, but without spending an afternoon going through, I wouldn't be able to know.
So how do you reconfigure lot 1 to get rid of this
They
problem?
would actually have to pull, do you have GIS up? So if they reconfigured the lot to come off of 15th there, it would make a very weird design for the lot. They could technically take access with the proper width off of 15th, come in and then have it go north. If they're to do that, they have the ditch in the way, it makes unusable land. It's not a good thing to do, but it would make it comply. I don't like it.
So there's no good solution?
There's
Bottom
not.
line.
A waiver is a better idea than probably
that's where I
making a
wanted to
very
get to.
weird, unusable lot.
Okay.
Yes, John?
When the 25-foot width was determined, was that taken from a national standard? Or where did it come from?
I'm not sure what the standards were or what, where they came up with that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
To my knowledge, this has been in place since 94. I don't think it's been a change that has occurred, but I couldn't say why they chose that.
Is there any issue with regard to it being 15 feet from a public safety, police, fire issue at all?
All public safety vehicles currently being used would be able to access the 15-foot. I was out there yesterday afternoon to get eyes on it. Everything's built out. It looks very usable. I don't see any red flags with it, but my regs just don't allow me to say, it's
Okay.
good.
All right, so it's not a public safety issue. It may be awkward and it's less than the 25 feet that we know is set up from some standard. I mean, just common sense wise,
Would hope it came from a standard.
Yeah, I mean, flag lots, most planners don't like flag lots. They just don't, throughout the country, they just don't. Because they're weird, and, it's a flag, right? And the narrower it is relative to the backside of it, it's even more awkward, so.
So one of the things it was when that lot was designed, that wasn't necessarily a flag, it was an access point. Now that we're designing and cutting off a new lot, it can be, they want to use it as a flag, but it was designed, I think, more as an access than a future access for a lot. So, out there yesterday, again, it's all beautiful. There's already a set of gate posts up. It looks really nice. It just doesn't meet, I can't say I recommend approval.
I understand.
Yeah.
Let me just hypothetical. Right now, it's, how many acres is the total?
The lower lot is 26.6, and the lot in question, lot number 1, is 1 1/4.
In other words, the flat, or the
Yep,
pole.
lot number 1, that would be the flag lot, is
Okay.
1.25 acres.
Okay, and if they subdivided that into two more lots, the flag lot issue becomes moot, doesn't it?
Well, so the flag lot would never be able to go smaller.
No, I understand that.
Lot number 2,
If it's too small to be separate,
yeah.
okay, all right.
And if I don't mind the regulations, I believe, once this is done, anything that gets done on the 20-acre parcel is gonna fall under a major subdivision process. Just simply through regulations, I believe it is. There is no desire to be selling this or anything. The clients are doing this simply from a planning standpoint for their estate and what have you. It'd just be a lot easier for the estate planning and everything. They plan on keeping the hay fields there. They're not planning on doing any further development. And I will kind of disagree a little bit. A flag lot is used for access purposes. And that's kind of what that 15-foot was left there for, was for access purposes.
Further questions from the commissioners?
Maybe, George, you could clarify in my mind. I'm trying to figure out why. You say you need the 15 feet for access, but isn't that along south? Why would you need it to come in off south? Is south not developed there?
Because you can see
South
on this
ends.
map that they got here now, you can see where the irrigation ditch runs around there.
Okay,
You can see where the irrigation ditch comes down and around. To be able to access where their house is, you would have to come, if you come in from any other location, you would have to be going over that irrigation ditch. And you would have to be basically tearing a bunch of great irrigated hayfields up to be able to do it.
So I think what you're asking, South Street is not platted through. So that's why South Street stops right above.
so the plat ends where that flag ends?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
You should have a copy of that old plat that was done in '94 in your file.
Yeah, well, with these
And I
small
think
computers,
that
it's
might
kind of hard to read them.
clarify
Yeah.
things a little
Yeah, so
bit if
South
they
Street
could
is
bring
not-
it up.
Okay.
It's not platted through, it stops there at the beginning of this access.
I don't know whether they could bring that drawing up that's,
So
should
if
be in the
15th is,
packet.
or so if South Street goes at some point more to the west, will that 15 feet be part of that street?
So with it dead ending where it is right now and South Street stopping
Okay.
there, and unless the owners of land on both sides of the roadway wanted to plat a roadway through there, there'll never be a roadway through. They'll
Okay.
never extend all the way through. Does that answer?
Perhaps I could ask the question, because I have the same question, and I'm not sure that we've heard the answer yet.
Okay.
If South Street was platted all the way through.
Yes.
Would that require taking of private property, this flag stem essentially?
Yes, yeah, so if the county ever needed this roadway to go through, there would essentially be a taking if people did not want to sell it. Yeah, so that flag would become a portion of roadway.
So essentially, if it followed normal platting, this would actually be within the road. This stem would be within.
So in that case, it wouldn't matter if it was 25 feet or 15 feet, it would still be taken, correct?
Yes.
yeah, and,
Okay.
basically, I don't ever see that happening, with the fact that, they own 20 acres right here that we're dealing with additionally. But they actually own the land south of what South Street would be, clear over to 9th Street. That is all the way over to 9th Street. They own that whole section.
Well, that's why
through
I'm
there.
thinking that at some point, maybe south is gonna go through to 9th.
Uh,
If you're doing development on that.
I don't believe that'll happen in our lifetime.
Well, there's a lot of things that aren't gonna happen in my lifetime.
George,
too old
just,
for that.
just remember, George, James Bond, even James Bond says never say never, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
it would seem unlikely, but you can never say never, like, but it would seem unlikely that the county would be trying to pursue or to purchase land or to eventually do a taking to get that one roadway through. But if they did, this stem would be within that.
Well, I'm just thinking of the long-term implications, and it seems to me like it wouldn't make a whole lot of difference whether it was 15 or 25 feet in the long
We
term.
just don't own but 15 feet of it.
Yeah.
Understand.
So how would they expand it to 25?
It'd be a taking from the neighbor. Well, they can't. So the stem that they're proposing could never go wider. That's why they're asking for the waiver, because with what they own, they could never meet the standard coming in from that location. They only have 15, and like Stephen was explaining, the neighbor to the north, he's got his 15 foot. They split that, and they each got that land. So they could never make that flag work with what they own right now.
And I think the other way to look at this is that if the county, by some means, and we don't have to speculate what those means could be or might be or whatever, but if the county, by some means, platted South Street all the way through, this problem would be solved, because essentially then there would be access to South Street. It would be simple to.
Yeah.
Get a driveway address there, and so it kind of solves itself if that ever happens.
Well, and they're addressed off of South Street currently.
Yep. Yeah, they would if that road ever went through, they'd essentially have road frontage. So there wouldn't be a flag or an issue.
Okay. Other comments, questions from commissioners? I would make a comment. We were provided the application and some figures in the application, but it would have helped me to have this, the facts of this flag stem presented more clearly, so that we saw where the private property boundary is, where South Street ends, where the flag begins, to get the relative.
And John, I understand that perfectly well. You did get, or should have got, I can't say what you got in your packet, but I know that the Planning and Zoning Department was provided with a copy of that plat originally. I'm assuming that it got put in you guys' packets. I don't see your packets once I give it to them, so I assume that everything I give them actually ends up in that packet.
These are the figures that we got in our
Yeah.
packets, and I think one of them is probably based on that, or is that this?
Right
That's
there's
in the
your
packet.
original plat right there.
41, yeah, so it is in the, I did not print this one off. But it's still essentially we're being asked to make a decision here to either support our county regulations or to make an exception, and the exceptions are possible. But it would have helped me to be able to visualize it a little bit better, is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Because it was not clear to me, how South Street interacted with this property, and that's I think a key fact here on what we have to consider.
Don?
Yes,
Miss-
yeah. Sharp, please step up to the microphone.
I want to ask each of you, who is not familiar with this location? Please raise your hand if you're not.
Familiar with what?
If you are not familiar with this location.
I probably
Okay.
not.
Okay, could you please go back to the map?
To the
Yes.
aerial photo?
Okay, if you look at the dark line on the right, that's 15th Street going up, going north. Then you come to South Street. To the east, South Street is paved.
Right.
To the west, the county maintains a gravel road over to all those storage sheds. I don't know if you've been up on that side of town or not, but those are the storage sheds. Then we put up the pillars for a gate, and then beyond that is considered South Street, but it's a gravel road that years ago made the hayfield accessible to the farmers. And that's what it is. No one ever really uses that except the irrigation people who are going in to check the irrigation ditch for any clogging, and the farmers and the ranchers. Now we are using it because we built a house on that very, very northeast corner with the intention. A neighbor said, why didn't you build it in the middle of the field? It's like, no, we don't want to do that. We want to save the field. We want to have that hay field. And so I want to just point out, when you say South Street, it makes it sound like it's paved over there. It is not paved whatsoever west of 15th Street at all. Okay, and then if you look there, you can see the storage sheds, the 4 buildings. Then there's a home right there, and then you go on in. Okay, and our house is not on this picture. Our house is to the left of the irrigation ditch. And then if you go over farther over here, the irrigation ditch does a U, and those right there, years ago, we used for our daughter's horse pens, and my son raised pheasants and quail, so those were bird pens. But the house is strictly on that northeast corner of that U. And that's all we want to do, is divide that 1.5 acres off and leave the hayfield as it is. We do have the road going in, again, so the ranchers can access the field. We use that also, that little dirt road between the trees row, as access to the bird pens and the horse corrals years ago. But I think my main emphasis, when you say street, to me that's deceiving. It's a dirt gravel road.
Understand.
Do you have any questions?
Did the fire department have any access issues and turnaround issues?
No.
The
The garbage truck comes up every Monday.
He comes
Yeah,
up
when-
and he can turn around in your front yard, basically?
No.
Pull forward or back up,
Yeah.
or.
There's a place there to back up.
They have
Okay,
access.
all right.
Yeah, and those dump trucks are pretty big.
Yeah, I was out there yesterday. It's fully built out. There's turning radiuses on their property. There's not a vehicle on the road that's going to have a problem getting through their gates. It's just my regs don't allow for a 15-foot. So.
Okay.
And there again, going back to that map, years ago, for those of you who lived in Canyon City, that was all Herb Venker's flower farms. And people went in and out of there on that dirt road all the time to go in and buy flowers.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Any further questions? Then, commissioners, what are your thoughts? Someone prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Move to approve the MS 24-003 Fossil Trail Minor subdivision. We have one contingency left, correct? Which will be the drainage plan.
Contingency would be gone. The condition would be the drainage plan at time of
Okay,
development.
that's the only condition.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. With the condition number 2, drainage plan report done. Time of development noted on plat for lot 2.
Thank you for that motion. Just a question on that. Would one of the conditions also be that a driveway access permit be applied for at the time of development?
Time of development of lot 2. Yes. Sorry, I missed that.
Of lot
2.
2.
Lot number 2.
not to. Would you accept a friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment, and this doesn't pose, I think this 25 feet's a little bit arbitrary. I understand if it was 5 feet or 50 feet, but the difference between 25 and 15, as long as it does not constitute a public safety issue, I'm supportive of granting the variance.
Thank you for that motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I would like to say that, to emphasize for the record, that this is kind of an existing condition. The road is not platted, and that if the road ever were to be platted, that this would take care of itself. It would, this issue would go away of it being a flag lot even. And so for those reasons, I would support it too. And with that, Gardner, you want to give?
Aye.
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 All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Congratulations. You've got some.
Can I just make a quick comment? And I don't know whether this is appropriate or not at this point in time.
Probably not.
But if there would be time allowed and everything, maybe it'd help you guys if you just drove by one of these sites and took a quick eye on it and what have you before you come to the meetings. And
We always
everything.
try
I
to,
think
but
that'd-
sometimes we're busy.
I think that'd solve a little bit of the problem. I know it can't happen on all of them, but I'm just making a tidbit recommendation.
George,
so to speak.
oftentimes if you go out to look at a site like that, if you don't know where the property boundaries are, you don't really know what you're looking at. I'm sorry, but you just don't. And you can
it was-
try, I mean, I try, but sometimes it just doesn't benefit me.
Any project that's mine, all of them, I'll go out there with you. I have no problem with doing that.
I would say we're kind of in a semi-judicial role here, as opposed to rulemaking, a legislative role. And really, there are some restrictions on what we should or should not do as commissioners, as I understand it. And Dan, you might take this back for a question for the attorney, to make sure that what I say here is correct. But I believe that unless we go as a group, we're really not supposed to conduct independent investigations of matters that come in front of us. The idea being that we all deal from the same set of facts to be able to reach whatever our decisions are. And
Well,
so-
I asked that same question when I was placed on this board, and the answer I got was that, yes, they would encourage you to go look at those places, but do it on your own. Don't talk to anybody, just go do what you're gonna do, garner as much information as you can. But, for example, George, if I contacted you and says, well, go show me your project, then I would have to recuse myself from making a judgment on that. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not willing to do
That's why I
that.
say not necessarily me, but I mean, if somebody's driving by it, so you have an idea what the neighborhood is like.
And in fairness on this one, Joe had COVID last week, so we were late getting it out to them. So they had the packets a little bit later than normal. So that was an error on me.
But we appreciate it.
I just want to say one thing. When I moved over here, I lived in North Canyon, 3 different addresses. I still don't know what streets go all the way through and which ones don't. I think I kind of have a feel for it. I remember the flower farm. I was up there a lot, and that country is whacked up, and it's farm country, and lots of times it doesn't make sense. I lived on a place on High Street that had the platted road going through it, but they considered that part of the place because they'll never build that road. I heard that, so.
Joanne, you had a comment?
That we had,
Excuse me, hang on just a second.
the class we had with the attorney,
Uh-huh.
you cannot go as a group because that's considered a public, yeah, so
Right,
you'd have
right.
to go
Individually.
singly, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. No further business in front of us. We are adjourned.
Yeah, I've been doing it on my own for 10 years.